So what is up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So when we are first introduced to Vegeta as a character, one of the most defining character traits of Vegeta as a character is the fact that he is a cold-blooded, merciless killer. Now, despite this, Vegeta is not as dumb as you would think a Saiyan would be, as a barbaric race that just runs around destroying everything. Vegeta is actually shown to be pretty intelligent as a Saiyan as the series has progressed in different ways. He actually puts a lot of conscious thought into what he does, and I think that's always been a very interesting aspect of his character. But despite the fact that Vegeta wasn't a stereotypical barbarian who didn't put any thought into what he did, he still was a evil, cold-blooded, merciless killer. And how the plot goes about justifying Vegeta being this way is actually very, very interesting. And that is due to the fact that Vegeta worships the idea of the Super Saiyan. And that is the topic of today's video. So when I say that Vegeta worships the idea of the Super Saiyan, what I mean by that is he aspires to be the Super Saiyan. This is made very, very clear to us during the Namek saga, whenever he's upset because he believes Goku may be becoming the Super Saiyan. But when Goku starts to show that he is not a merciless killer, Vegeta essentially scoffs at the idea that Goku could be the Super Saiyan and dismisses it from his mind. And the reason for this is because Vegeta is taught at a very, very young age that the Super Saiyan was a legend that loved battle over all things, and was essentially a vicious, murderous killer. Now, this is a very, very, very important character trait for Vegeta because it essentially explains why, despite the fact that he's a bit more conscious than the average barbarian, he still puts a lot of effort into being evil, into killing and destroying and murdering and taking over planets and everything of that nature. And the reason this is very important is because it explains why Vegeta is what we call pure evil. Because due to how Vegeta was raised, and due to the pride of the Saiyans, as was communicated to him as a child by his father and the other Saiyans, he believed that it was his duty to be a cold-blooded, merciless killer, and the only way that he could ever become the Super Saiyan is to become something similar to what he had heard the Super Saiyan was in legend. The most interesting thing about this, in terms of how it affects the overall plot in the story, is the fact that it is a misconception. And what I mean by that is the legend that Vegeta is trying to replicate is the result of a misunderstanding. And what I mean by that is it's communicated to us in multiple different films in different ways. And even on Namek itself, that the Super Saiyan has a significant impact on whoever is under the transformation's effects, because the transformation itself is fueled by rage. Now, Goku himself tells Gohan on Namek that he's having a hard time keeping control of himself, and this is due to the fact that Super Saiyan is fueled by rage, and it causes viciousness and impurity and maliciousness to infect Goku's heart. Now, this is very, very, very important, and this is something that people look over all the time when it comes to the narrative purpose of the Super Saiyan and the Super Saiyan legend, is that it is a misunderstanding on the Universe 7 Saiyans' part. The reason the Saiyans worship this idea of a merciless, cold-blooded killer is because whoever became the Super Saiyan before, due to the fact that Super Saiyan has this effect on a Saiyan's personality, behaved in a way that the Saiyans did not understand was the result of the anger that said Saiyan was experiencing. So essentially, the entire Super Saiyan legend that Vegeta believed and communicated to us on Namek is the result of a misunderstanding on his and Saiyan civilization's part. Despite that, they still worship this idea of the Super Saiyan, and they hold it in high regard as an example of who they should be. But now that we've established that this legend is the result of a misunderstanding, the connotations and the context surrounding this legend actually becomes much more interesting. Because rage and the effect that it has on your personality, Sun Wukong, the character that Goku is based on, is an allegory for. Multiple times in Journey to the West, Sun Wukong experiences huge bouts of rage, and due to that, he can't control his actions. He is a metaphor for our survival instincts' effect on our mind, our heart's effect on our mind, the heart-mind connection. And I find that very, very, very interesting. And there's multiple reasons for this to be the case, But the main reason that this is the case is because in martial arts itself, Sun Wukong and martial arts have a symbiotic relationship with each other in this way, because Sun Wukong is a representation of this idea metaphorically. Rage and your ego is what prevents you from being able to be a healthy practicing martial artist who practices good ethics, because rage and your ego can have an effect on your conscious decision making processes, and as a result make you a worse person, which is why it's hard to wrestle with that as you grow as a martial artist, because you become more physically powerful, and therefore if somebody was to develop an ego or an anger issue, it's harder to deal with said person because they have been practicing martial arts. So just because you practice martial arts doesn't mean you're impervious to this effect. It just means that you can actually fall victim to it even easier depending on how powerful you are. So rage and anger in reality, and the ego and anger's effect on our survival instincts and our mind and our heart, is essentially what the Saiyans were worshiping, and they didn't even realize it. They thought they were worshiping this idea of what a Saiyan should be. They were just looking up to the effect that rage had on this previous Super Saiyan's personality and their mentality. So the entire legend is the result of a misunderstanding. And they play on this in multiple different forms of media. In the original Broly film, at the very beginning of the film, we see Broly save his father. And by the end of the film, we see him kill his father because he is under the effect of the Super Saiyan transformation. This is to essentially show you exactly what Goku is trying to communicate here as well in the Namek saga, is that this legend is the result of a misunderstanding due to the fact that Super Saiyan has such a significant impact on the user's personality. And we also get this with Kale, we get this with even modern Super Broly, and so this is extremely interesting, because this aspect of our nature, our ego, and the effect that it can have on our conscious thoughts is essentially considered demonic, and it can essentially take over your personality and make you evil if you let it, which is very interesting, because Dragon Ball plays on this in its own really cool and creative way through the demonic Saiyan associating Broly with the devil in his film, Sun Wukong himself becoming demonic whenever he is under the effect of his ego, his anger, or his survival instincts, and being a metaphorical representation of what our heart can do to our mind in a survival situation, or in a situation where we fall victim to our emotions. It's just a really well-crafted idea on Toriyama's part, and the coolest thing about it is that at the end of Journey to the West, when Sun Wukong learns to tame this aspect of his personality with martial arts in order to become the victorious fighting Buddha, that's essentially what Goku does whenever he controls the Super Saiyan transformation, and that's what a number of characters do when they learn to control this aspect of their nature. And so Akira Toriyama is repeating this really cool narrative theme over and over again through all the Super Saiyans once they gain control, and I think that that is just a really cool idea. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.